They saw a quiet mom, the perfect, helpless target for their heist. They had no idea they were pointing a gun at Spectre, a ghost operator from the military's most elite unit, with 47 kills to her name. The Keystone Mutual Bank in suburban Denver smelled faintly of disinfectant and old paper money. At 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the air was thick with the quiet hum of midweek boredom. Maya Lincoln, 30, stood in the short queue, her daughter Lily's small hand tucked securely in hers. To the casual observer, Maya was the picture of suburban motherhood, a single mom in a tailored, dark gray blazer over a simple white t-shirt, her blonde hair pulled back into a meticulous low bun. She was here to deposit a check from her accounting firm, a small, quiet act in a small, quiet life she had painstakingly built from the ashes of another. "Mommy, can we get ice cream after this?" Lily whispered, her voice a tiny melody against the bank's hushed tones. Lily, at 7, was all bright eyes and untamed curiosity. "If you're good, sweet pea." "Just a few more minutes," Maya replied, her voice a warm, practiced calm. But her eyes, a cool and startling shade of blue, were not calm. They were scanning, cataloging, processing. 3 years of civilian life hadn't dulled the edge of 8 years in the military's darkest corners. Her gaze swept the room with an unconscious, systematic precision. She noted the two tellers behind the reinforced glass, the elderly security guard whose posture was a little too relaxed, the polished black granite floor that would be treacherous if wet. She registered the 4 exits, 2 public, 2 restricted, and the placement of the security cameras, their tiny red lights blinking like malevolent eyes. It was a threat assessment, a mental process as ingrained and automatic as breathing. Just as she was about to turn her attention back to Lily, her peripheral vision snagged on something wrong. 3 men had just walked through the glass doors. Their movements were too fluid, too coordinated for casual customers. Their loose-fitting jackets, baggy jeans, and nondescript hoodies were a uniform of anonymity, perfect for concealing intent and hardware. They didn't approach the counter. Instead, they fanned out, taking up positions that covered all angles of the lobby. A textbook tactical deployment. As Maya's mind raced, calculating trajectories and potential cover, she was unaware that the security camera above the door was documenting what would soon become the most analyzed piece of surveillance footage in the FBI's recent history. The lead man was tall and wiry, his face obscured by a hoodie. Maya's brain supplied the details: bulge under his left arm, shoulder holster, likely a 9mm pistol. The second was shorter, built like a bulldog, his hand hovering near the waistband of his army surplus jacket. The third, younger, fidgeted nervously, his eyes darting around from under a low-pulled baseball cap. The weak link. Maya's entire being shifted. The accountant, the single mother, receded. A colder, sharper consciousness surfaced. Her hand gently squeezed Lily's. "Lily," she whispered, her voice barely a breath but laced with absolute command, "I need you to play a game with me. It's called Quiet Mouse." Before Lily could respond, the tall man's voice ripped through the quiet afternoon. "Nobody move. This is a robbery." Panic erupted. A woman screamed, a sharp, piercing sound that was quickly choked off. The dozen or so customers and 4 employees dropped to the floor in a tangle of limbs and terrified whimpers, hands instinctively flying to cover their heads. Maya didn't drop. Not immediately. In the split second of chaos, she used the motion of the crowd as cover. With a firm, guiding pressure, she maneuvered Lily behind a heavy oak customer service desk, the most defensible position in the room. "Lily, get down, sweet pea. Curl up small," Maya whispered urgently, her lips close to her daughter's ear. "Stay here. No matter what you hear, don't look up. Not until Mommy says the game is over. Can you do that for me?" "I'm scared, Mommy," Lily whimpered, her small body trembling. "I know, baby. But Mommy's here. I'm going to keep you safe," Maya promised, her voice a shield of reassurance. Inside, a cold rage was building. Anger that these men had dared to bring their violence into her daughter's world, the one sanctuary she had fought so hard to create. The lead gunman, who the others called Cain, surveyed the terrified people on the floor, his weapons sweeping across them with predatory arrogance. "Everyone stays calm, nobody gets hurt. We just want the bank's money, not yours." What Cain and his crew couldn't know was that the woman slowly lowering herself to the floor was not trembling with fear. The slight, almost imperceptible shifts in her posture were her body calibrating, her muscles warming. It was the muscle memory of over 200 combat missions, where a single miscalculation meant death. Cain's eyes scanned the room, looking for a lever, a way to ensure compliance. They landed on Maya, the last one to get down, the one who had tucked her child away. The perfect target. "You," he barked, pointing the barrel of his gun directly at her. "The one with the kid. Stand up. Now." Maya rose slowly, her hands held high and open, a universal sign of surrender. Every fiber of her being was coiled, a spring compressed to its absolute limit, ready to explode. "Please," she said, pitching her voice to tremble with manufactured fear. "Please, don't. I have a little girl. She's just a child." The second gunman, the stocky one, let out a harsh laugh. "Hear that, Cain? She thinks we're gonna hurt her precious little princess." Cain approached Maya, his steps confident, predatory. He stopped just 3 feet away from her. Exactly where she wanted him. "Here's the deal, lady. You and your kid are our insurance policy. You're gonna stand right here with me. Make sure no one gets any bright ideas." "My daughter is only 7, Maya pleaded, playing the role of the terrified mother to perfection. "She's just a baby." "Should have thought of that before you brought her out today," Cain sneered. He gestured to his nervous, younger accomplice. "Go get the kid. Bring her over here." Behind the desk, Lily was curled into a tight ball, her hands over her ears, just as her mother had told her. She was in the one spot in the room that offered maximum protection from potential lines of fire, a piece of urban warfare knowledge her mother had prayed she would never need. "We'll start with the woman and the kid," Cain announced to his partners, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Keep them close. Keep everyone else motivated." As the youngest robber started moving hesitantly toward the desk where Lily was hiding, Maya's mind went silent. The world narrowed to a single point. The mother, Maya Lincoln, vanished. In her place stood Spectre, Delta Force Operator, Unit 7. And these men were no longer bank robbers. They were targets. Part 3, The 11-Second War. The moment the young robber's hand reached over the desk for Lily, the world snapped into motion. It was a symphony of violence, executed with the chilling precision of a surgeon. Before the robber's fingers could touch Lily, Maya exploded. Her left hand shot out like a viper, not grabbing the gun, but cupping the back of Cain's hand that held it, her thumb jamming into the nerve cluster at the base of his wrist. Simultaneously, she twisted his entire arm, forcing the barrel of the gun away from her and toward the ceiling. His grip spasmed open involuntarily. Her right hand, hardened into a blade, drove upward into his elbow joint. There was a sickening, wet crack, the sound of bone and ligament giving way. Cain let out a strangled scream as his arm bent at an angle it was never meant to. The gun clattered to the polished granite floor, the sound echoing like a death knell. Seconds 4 to 6, target 2 disoriented. Maya didn't pause. She used Cain's forward momentum from the strike, hooking her leg behind his and shoving him with the full force of her body. The tall gunman became a projectile, slamming into his stocky, second-in-command with the force of a car crash. The two men went down in a heap of tangled limbs and curses, their heads cracking against the hard floor. The second target was dazed, his weapon still holstered. Seconds 7 to 9, target 3 down. The third robber, the nervous rookie, finally reacted. He panicked. He yanked his pistol from his waistband and fired a wild shot. The bullet went high, shattering a decorative light fixture and sending a shower of glass and plaster raining down. But Maya was already in motion. She had launched herself across the short distance, a flying knee connecting with the rookie's solar plexus with the impact of a sledgehammer. All the air rushed out of his lungs in a choked gasp. He crumpled to the floor, his gun skittering away across the granite, his body convulsing as he fought for breath that wouldn't come. Seconds 10 to 11, scene secured. The entire engagement lasted 11 seconds. In the sudden, ringing silence that followed, the only sounds were the pained groans of the three incapacitated men and the soft, terrified sobs of the other customers. Maya moved with an unnerving calm. She swiftly collected the three firearms, her hands moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who had field-stripped and reassembled hundreds of such weapons under extreme pressure. She engaged the safeties on all three and placed them on the high teller counter, well out of reach. The bank was still. People slowly lifted their heads, their faces a mixture of terror and utter disbelief. They had just witnessed a ghost at work. Maya walked over to the bank manager's desk, her movements economical and deliberate. She calmly retrieved a roll of heavy-duty packing tape. With swift, efficient motions, she bound the hands and feet of all three men, using a technique designed for maximum immobility, a skill learned not in a self-defense class, but in prisoner processing operations in the mountains of Afghanistan. Kane was conscious but cradling his shattered arm, his face pale with shock and agony. The second man was groggy from the collision, a trickle of blood running from his nose. The third was still curled in a fetal position, struggling to breathe. "Is everyone okay?" Maya called out, her voice now steady and authoritative, cutting through the stunned silence. "Is anyone injured?" Heads shook in mute negation. The young bank teller, a woman named Jessica with wide, astonished eyes, finally found her voice. How did you do that?" "Self-defense classes," Maya replied simply, her voice flat. "Kickboxing." She was already moving toward the desk, her focus entirely on her daughter. "Sweetheart. The game is over. You can come out now. The bad men are all tied up." Lily emerged from behind the desk, her eyes wide as saucers. She ran to her mother, burying her face in her blazer. "Mommy, you were like a superhero." "Sometimes mommies have to be," Maya whispered, pulling Lily into a fierce, protective hug, her body finally allowing itself a single, shuddering tremor. The first police cruisers arrived within 4 minutes, an impressive response time. As officers swarmed in, guns drawn, they found a scene that was both chaotic and strangely orderly. The senior officer, a grizzled veteran named Detective Miller, took one look and knew this was no ordinary civilian takedown. The suspects weren't just subdued, they were professionally restrained. Their weapons hadn't just been dropped, they had been gathered, cleared, and made safe by someone with intimate knowledge of firearms. And the positioning of the bound men created perfect, unobstructed fields of fire for responding officers entering through the front doors. It was tactically flawless. "Ma'am, I'm Detective Miller," he said, approaching Maya respectfully. "I need to get your statement. What you did in here, that was incredible." "I just protected my daughter," Maya replied, her voice carefully neutral. "Anyone would have done the same." "No, ma'am," Miller said, his eyes sharp and assessing. "They wouldn't have. And they couldn't have. You mind telling me where you really learned to fight like that?" Maya met his gaze. "I told the teller. Kickboxing." Miller didn't buy it for a second, but he saw the hard, warning glint in her eyes and decided not to press. For now. But as he turned away, he knew. This woman's calm, her tactical awareness, the sheer, brutal efficiency of her movements, it all screamed high-level military training. 200 miles away, in a secure, windowless room at the FBI's regional headquarters in Colorado Springs, Special Agent Elias Vance was watching the same scene unfold on a high-resolution monitor. He leaned closer, replaying the 11 seconds of violence again and again. He wasn't watching the robbery, he was watching the woman. The fluid takedowns, the precise joint manipulation, the weapon handling. It was a signature. A ghost print he'd only ever seen once before, in a heavily redacted after-action report from a classified mission in Afghanistan. A mission that had officially never happened, carried out by an operator who had officially never existed. An operator known only as Spectre. That evening, after Lily was asleep, the knock came. It was soft, discreet, but Maya heard it long before it landed on the door of her minimalist apartment. Every object in the small space was perfectly arranged, a testament to military discipline, the only chaos being the vibrant, colorful drawings by Lily taped to the refrigerator. She opened the door to a man in a dark, well-fitted suit. He was tall, with tired eyes that had seen too much. Maya knew who he was before he spoke. "Hello, Spectre," Agent Elias Vance said quietly. Maya's hand instinctively drifted to the small of her back, where the cold steel of a concealed pistol rested. Old habits. "That name doesn't exist anymore," she said, her voice low and even. "And neither does the person who used it." "The bank surveillance footage says otherwise," Vance countered, his gaze unwavering. 11 seconds. 3 armed hostiles neutralized. 0 collateral damage. That's a Spectre signature. There's no one else who moves like that. Maya stepped back, a silent invitation for him to enter. She closed the door behind him. "What do you want, Elias?" "First, to make sure you're okay. Second, to ask if today was random, or if someone finally found you." It was the same question that had been gnawing at her since the moment the robbers entered the bank. 3 years of absolute, radio-silent anonymity, and then 3 armed men just happened to choose the exact bank, on the exact day, where she was standing with the one person she had to protect above all else. The odds were astronomical. It wasn't random, Maya stated, more to herself than to him. Their entry was too coordinated. Their timing was too perfect. They weren't there for the money. Someone wanted to draw me out. "That's what I was afraid of," Vance said, his expression grim. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thin, classified folder. "Maya, there are people who never stopped looking for you. People who know what you discovered during Operation Nightfall." Operation Nightfall. The mission that had ended her career and her life as Sarah Patterson. She had been Captain Sarah Patterson then, the most lethal operator in Unit 7, a ghost who specialized in eliminating high-value targets. Her last assignment was to take out a Taliban warlord. She succeeded, only to discover that the warlord's operation was being protected by powerful figures deep within the Pentagon. When she reported her findings, she was given a choice, a state funeral or a permanent disappearance. For Lily's sake, she chose to vanish. Lily wasn't her biological daughter. She was the daughter of Sergeant Mike Reeves, Maya's teammate, who had been killed on that final, disastrous mission. Maya had promised him she would raise Lily as her own. The identity of Maya Lincoln, divorced single mother and accountant, was the perfect cover. "Those people know you're alive now," Vance continued, his voice pulling her from the memory. "And if they know Maya Lincoln is really Spectre, what do you think that little girl in the next room becomes?" The truth hit Maya like a physical blow. A target. By using her skills to save Lily, she had placed her in infinitely greater danger. "I have an offer," Vance said, sliding the folder across her coffee table. From the top. General Morrison. Full immunity. New, deep-cover identities for you and Lily, anywhere in the world. A consulting position with a new joint task force investigating the very corruption you uncovered. And in exchange? Maya asked, her eyes hard. "Your testimony. Everything you know about Nightfall. The orders, the targets, the Pentagon contacts you identified. You give us the key, we'll clean the house." Maya looked toward Lily's bedroom door. Everything she had done for 3 years was to give that little girl a normal, safe life. Now, that life was over, whether she cooperated or not. "If I testify," she asked, "who gets hurt?" Some very powerful, very corrupt people go to prison for a very long time, Vance said. And some very dangerous terrorists lose their American protection. And Lily? She gets to grow up knowing her mother is a hero, not a ghost. Maya was quiet for a long moment, the weight of two futures resting on her shoulders. Finally, she nodded. When do we start? Tomorrow, Vance replied. But first, we need to get you both through the night. Your apartment is already under surveillance. And not all of it is friendly. As if on cue, Maya's head snapped up. Her senses, honed by years of living on a knife's edge, screamed a warning. It was a sound that didn't belong, the faint, metallic click of a lock-pick sliding into her front door. Lily. Maya's voice was sharp, a commander's bark. Bathroom. Now. Lock the door and don't come out. Vance drew his weapon as Maya moved silently toward her bedroom, where the tools of her old trade were hidden. The weapons Maya Lincoln wasn't supposed to have, but Spectre never traveled without. The war wasn't over. It had just followed her home. 6 months later, the world was a different place. The Joint Task Force, armed with Maya's explosive testimony, had dismantled a deeply entrenched network of corruption that reached the highest echelons of the Pentagon. High-ranking officials were indicted, military careers ended in disgrace, and a lucrative, blood-soaked heroin trafficking route protected by American assets was severed. Justice, it turned out, was a dish best served cold and with surgical precision. Maya and Lily were gone. They now lived under new names in a quiet, sun-drenched coastal town, their identities protected by the full weight of the U.S. government. For the first time, Lily knew the truth about her mother, not the accountant, but the hero. She learned that Maya wasn't just the woman who had adopted her, but a warrior who had fought for her country and was now fighting for their future. The pride in her eyes was brighter than any medal. The Keystone Mutual Bank robbery footage, however, took on a life of its own. An edited, anonymous version was leaked to the internet. It went viral. The world watched, mesmerized, as a seemingly ordinary mother dismantled 3 armed robbers in 11 seconds of brutal, balletic violence. News channels ran the story on loop. Social media exploded with hashtags like #GuardianAngel and #BankMom. She became a modern folk hero, a symbol of hidden strength and a mother's protective fury. The footage became legendary in military and law enforcement training circles, a textbook example of how elite training becomes a part of an operator's DNA, never to be erased. The general public, of course, never knew her real name or her past. They only knew the story of a brave woman who stood up to evil to protect her child and a bank full of innocent people. Maya Patterson, formerly Lincoln, formerly Spectre, had finally found a measure of peace. Not by running from her past, but by confronting it, by using the very skills that had forced her into the shadows to bring light to the darkness. She had learned that true strength wasn't about hiding who you are, but about choosing when, and for whom, to reveal it. The bank robbers had thought they were targeting a helpless woman. Instead, they had awakened one of the most formidable soldiers America had ever produced. They were, by all accounts, incredibly lucky to have survived the encounter. The story of Maya Lincoln serves as a powerful reminder: the most dangerous person in the room is often the one you least suspect. And you should never, ever underestimate a mother protecting her child. What do you think? Is there a hero hiding inside someone you know? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and please, let's discuss with respect. If this story moved you, give it a like, share it with your friends, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible true stories you won't find anywhere else.